and welcome. I'm Lori Balderas, and I'm so happy you're here. Well, I'm by myself again. I have been so blessed with so many guests, and I am just so happy that everybody keeps reaching out to me, and I really enjoy having my guests. But every now and then, I need to be by myself, and that way I can kind of talk about some things that I want to talk about. And so, first of all, I just want to say that we do have more guests coming up. And also, I'm thinking we'll probably do something regarding Advent and Christmas coming up, because can you believe it's that time of year already? So we will have some other guests. And I also want to take this opportunity for part of this episode, not the whole thing, but part of it, to kind of give an update on the future of Fresh Catholic, the future of Simon and Lori Balderas, and what we're going to be doing. And so I think I'm going to entitle this episode Leap of Faith, because sometimes that's what we have to do, is make a leap of faith. And that's not an easy thing to do. I can promise you that. And for those of you who have been listening at all to this podcast, I'm a very particular type of person. One of the things I talk about a lot on this podcast is that I like safety. I like security. I like things in order. I like to know what's coming down the path. And, you know, I've learned, now that I'm 60, I've learned that that's not really realistic, and that's not really how life goes. I mean, I think that sometimes we can make plans, have goals. I think all those things are really good, but I do know that we also have to learn that we don't always get our way. We don't always have a clear plan of what's going to happen, because we are humans. Things come up. There are people that get sick or hurt, or, you know, you lose a job, or different factors come into things. I've certainly had many things happen in my life that have changed everything about what I'm doing. And sometimes I'm resistant to those things, and sometimes I just kind of go with the flow. But we had an episode that I was calling Rally, the Rally episode, Rally Summer. And, you know, we do have to learn to like pivot or bounce back or shift our thought process, change our goals sometimes. And that's what I've learned over, you know, my lifetime, is I'll think I'm going down a certain path, and my accident happened. That certainly changed my life. I'm going down a certain path, and my husband decides, you know, to leave after 25 years, not Simon, but the father of my children. So I really have always had to kind of like, you know, just go down a different path and see where that takes me. So if you have been listening, you know that around a year ago, Simon and I were making a few plans. We were making a plan to go to Italy on a pilgrimage with Trinity Tour Travels and Father Matthew Miguel. And we were excited about that, and planning that, and hopeful about that, and praying about it. And ultimately that trip it got canceled. We didn't get enough people signed up. And so, you know, I was disappointed, and I cried, and I felt bad about that for a while. But, you know, ultimately it obviously wasn't the right time, and God didn't want that. That wasn't the plan. And so, you know, at this point now, I'm fine with that. I'm sad that I wasn't able to go, but I'm okay. And then also a year ago, Simon and I had decided we were going to go on like a missionary trip around the United States, and just kind of like take like 2 to 4 years to do that even. And we were going to buy a fifth wheel, and we were just going to take off and do Fresh Catholic on the road, and go visit churches, and do a documentary, and interview people. And we were excited about that. And we were making plans for that. And then ultimately that didn't happen. And, I have to say, it becomes a thing where we think, gosh, should we even like make plans? Should we even like talk about what we want to do? Should we put it out there? Because I know we've had some people go, well, are you really going to do these things? Because every time you say you're going to do something, it doesn't happen. And, it's not because we don't want to, but sometimes things happen and we're not meant to. And Simon and I are very, very devout and faithful Catholics. And we do know that the Lord is in charge of our lives and he's the one guiding our life. And it's kind of interesting because today, the gospel reading was, where Jesus is saying, ask and you will, it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock on the door and it will be opened for you. And I was just sitting in Mass and I was thinking, we should be making plans. We should be asking God. We should be praying for things. We should be like trying to discern things. That's what he wants us to do. He says it right there. But it really struck me that just because we want something doesn't mean it's what we need. And that's a really important thing. That's what Father Daniel was teaching the children today in Mass about that gospel. And I really, it wasn't just for the children. I really thought that is so true. He was trying to tell the children, Father Daniel was trying to tell the children, what do you want? What's the difference between wanting something and needing something? And his whole thing to the children, which also applies to all of us, is there's lots of things we want. We say, oh, Lord, I want this, I want that. And the Lord is thinking, but you don't need that. And it's very simple when you hear it like that. It's so true. Because, there have been lots of things Simon and I have wanted, and I maybe still want some of them, but the Lord knows exactly what our future holds and exactly what we're supposed to be doing. And we just need to be open to that. And so I just want to tell you kind of like what our plans are. And oh my gosh, do you hear God laughing? He's laughing because we have plans. But there's really nothing wrong with having hopes and dreams and having things that you are striving for. And so it's kind of interesting because I feel like we've been kind of like waiting for a sign or just kind of praying a lot about what we're wanting. And ultimately, we decided to just kind of start making some progress for ourselves. Just like, okay, well, we're just going to like be proactive and start like actually doing some things. And just like Deacon Don had advised us when we were trying to discern what to do, he said, take it a step at a time. Like, take that step. How'd you do on that step? And then take another step. So what we ended up doing was sold our truck, got a Sprinter van. We're going to, get that all prepared, and we are going to take off. We are going to leave the area we're in, and we're going to take a leap of faith, and we're going to head out. And we're heading out after the holidays. And so, we've kind of been talking about it, and then we just decided to start doing some action. So I gave my notice the other day at work, and I gave them notice that I'm working till the end of the year as a wedding coordinator at our church. And so that was kind of a box I checked off. We did get the van. That's checking off a box. I've already started, donating things and selling things. We're trying to really downsize. I would like to, we're obviously going to continue to do that. But we're heading out. So we're telling friends and family, and we're kind of preparing for it. And then, we know the Lord's with us, like no matter where we go and whatever we're doing. If we take it a step at a time and we know he's with us, I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be an amazing adventure. There's obviously some concerns and some risks, like we're leaving our family behind and we are giving up our jobs we have here. And I don't know, I'm feeling like we're going to be provided for. I'm feeling like, so far in these steps we're taking, I'm not seeing anything that's like detouring us from doing that. So I want to look at it as like kind of a cool adventure. Simon and I haven't got to spend a lot of time alone. We've been married on December, will be our 10-year anniversary. I do love to travel with Simon. He's a very worldly guy. He knows a lot of things. I really like to be with him. I think it's going to be fun to go to places I've never been that he has been to. I would like to experience things and people, and I would like to visit other churches. I think that that's really exciting. And so we're just going to kind of like take a little while, and we're going to kind of venture back east, and then we're going to kind of see where we want to land and see what's out there. And our goal is to settle down and find a little farm and have some animals and have a vegetable garden and write and create and, just have a different life. And, in this day and age, we can FaceTime our family. We can always come back and visit. But, we've been doing so many things for so many people, which has been beautiful and wonderful and amazing. And we love our family, and we have loved raising our children, and we love and adore our grandchildren. And we really value our friendships and, the people in our lives. But there comes a time where there's so much chaos in our life right now. And we're looking forward to some kind of like peace and calm. And I feel like because of the chaos in our family, Jesus is kind of over in a corner a bit. I don't want God to be, not forefront in our day and in our life. So I'm hoping that this time of kind of like figuring out what we want to do next is going to bring us closer to the Lord, rely on Him a lot for our needs, and guide us to see where He's taking us and what that might look like. I really would like to, I told Simon, I really need a home. I need a place that I can call home, that I feel safe and secure, that it's like our own space, that we feel comfortable and, like I say, calm and peaceful in. So I will just ask that you will all pray for us. And it doesn't mean Fresh Catholic is ending. It might look a little different, literally and figuratively. But I want to continue this ministry. I have been so excited to see where it's going, and we're really picking up some ground here. And, the fact that people are listening and watching, people are going to OCIA, they're signing up for that. People are coming back to the church. I'm not saying it's all because of Fresh Catholic, but when we all do something to build up the kingdom, this happens to be what I and Simon are able to do. Anything that can draw people to the Lord, back to the Lord, can, anything that can resonate with people. You never know what's going to resonate. Maybe something that Fresh Catholic is presenting draws people in. And then maybe somebody else listens to another, Catholic podcast, and that's what draws them in. Awesome. Whatever works. That's what I've always said all along is, let's build up the kingdom together. This is the universal church, and we all love Jesus. We all love the Lord, and we want, I want everybody to be Catholic. I want everybody to live this life. It's not easy. It's not an easy life following the Lord. It's not an easy life being Catholic, but nobody ever promised us life would be easy. And if it is easy, I don't know if that's a good thing. I think it needs to be that we're focused on what God wants and what we're doing, to build up our relationship with Him, to draw others to the Lord as well. So please pray for us. I am excited for this new chapter. I just think, it has a lot of potential. And so, I think a lot of times when people turn my age, maybe they're thinking, okay, well, it's time to curl up and, this is my life and it is what it is. And I can't change anything about it. And so I'm just kind of stuck. And, I feel like for the past year or two, we have just been praying, and there's nothing wrong with praying, but there comes a point where you have to act, or you have to take those steps. You have to take those baby steps, or maybe even big giant steps, and be action and see where things go. Don't feel like you need to be stuck in a situation you're in. If you pray to the Lord, if you ask for his guidance, if you ask for him, if you knock on that door, he will open the door for you, and then see what he has in store for you. So, I'm excited. And I also wanted to announce another thing that I'm doing in addition to Fresh Catholic, which, like I said, we're going to continue. It will look different. Who knows? I don't know. We kind of have some ideas, but it's going to be a different version of Fresh Catholic, but the same quality. I mean, you'll get your daily Mass readings, which I hope you're all listening to, and then there will be the weekly topic episode. And there might be some other ways we're doing the podcast. There could be things like man on the street interviews, as they call them. Could be women too, you know what I mean? And, maybe we're interviewing people out on the road, and that could be a really cool thing. And just see, what's going on out in America, and what are people's thoughts about our faith, and what would they like to see different? What do they love about it? So all those things might be really cool moving forward. But one thing I did that I haven't announced yet is last springtime, I became certified as a life coach. And I am a certified life coach, group coach, and trauma coach. And one of the reasons I wanted to do that is I really do love serving others. I really do love anytime I can help somebody with maybe some of my past traumas or my past dramas, situations I've been in, or my family has been in, or my loved ones have been in, things that I can take those experiences and try to help other people. I've tried to do that in this podcast, but I want to throw out an even bigger net. So I became certified in these things because I would like to be able to offer one-on-one sessions with people. I would like to offer workshops for people in all different things relating to all different topics, and some of them really fun, some of them that, maybe people have been in trauma. And what I found out when I became certified is, for those of you who don't really know what a life coach is, sometimes it kind of sounds like a woo-woo, hippy dippy thing. But actually, to become a life coach is a kind of great and beautiful thing, because it doesn't mean you're a psychologist. It doesn't mean you're a psychiatrist. It doesn't mean you're a counselor. It doesn't mean you're a doctor. What it means is that you are a person that's going to help people with their present and their future. So while therapists and doctors help with your past traumas, past things you've gone through that you've struggled with and are continuing to struggle with, you still need those types of people in your life. But what a life coach does is, a life coach basically says things like, okay, so let's address the things you've been through. And now, what can we do to move forward in your life in a positive way so that you can interact better with other people, so that you feel better with yourself, so that then when you're interacting with other people, it's more successful. And when I say successful, I don't mean monetarily successful. That might be a byproduct of it. But, in order to get past your past traumas and move to your future, sometimes it's nice to have a person that can help you come up with some really good ideas that are really good proactive ideas for you to have a really good positive future. So this is something I'm really excited about and looking forward to. I have so many great and wonderful ideas of things that I just think one of the reasons maybe I went through my traumas and dramas is so that I can do this to help other people. So in order to do that, I wanted to become certified. So keep an eye out for that. That's like another thing I'm doing. And that's going to be for people who are all types of people, Catholics, Protestants, other people that might not even be religious, people who are just looking for some good things to have a positive future. So I think that that's going to be a really exciting thing. So I'm kind of not slowing down in that way. I have a lot of, life left in me, and I do want to use it for the good of others. But of course, also, I really want to give my marriage and our relationship with the Lord a lot of attention as well. So when we come back, I'm going to talk to you about some things that maybe you can be doing to take a leap of faith yourselves. We'll be right back. What is happening at Fresh Catholic? Thanks for asking. Well, we have a weekly podcast with lots of topics and guests, and Fresh Catholic Daily, the daily Mass readings. Listen on all platforms and watch on YouTube. I also do short videos every day on Instagram and Facebook at Fresh Catholic. Like, share, subscribe, rate, and review. These are such simple ways to help us out. The other ways you can support our mission of drawing people to the faith or back to the faith are by becoming a Patreon or sponsor. Also simple, but so needed. Our website, freshcatholic.com, has an online store with merchandise, a blog, comics, and Fresh Catholic courses with educator Charles Merritt, with the Hail Mary, the Our Father, the Virtues, the Ascension, the Magi, the Visitation, the Ten Commandments, Sacraments and Grace, Sin, Advent, Angels, Lent, Typology, and even some Bible study courses. Wow, that's a lot. Please share all of this with everyone you know and join the Fresh Catholic family. And remember, be focused, be faithful, and be fresh. Oh, wait, one more thing. Our Typology series by educator Charles Merritt is feeling very unloved. I know, I get it. You see or hear that word, typology, and your eyes glaze over. You stifle a yawn. You might think to yourself, or even say to others, dry, boring, too Old Testament-ish for me. If that's you, then you're missing out, because typology connects the promise of Jesus in the Old Testament and the arrival of Jesus in the New Testament. It's like putting scripture under a microscope and seeing things you never saw before. So head to our website, freshcatholic.com, and give typology some love and attention. You will be amazed. And we're back. Okay, so now that you know what Simon and I are doing, it just really made me think, and I'll tell you another reason I had this idea for this part of the episode is, as we all know, I mean, you would have to be living on Mars or under a rock to not know that Charlie Kirk was horrifically murdered in September. And this was a young man, his life ahead of him, in his early 30s, beautiful family, going out there, honestly doing God's work and being such a voice for so many people. And, there's a lot of controversy about Charlie Kirk, and I'm not going to get into that today. But anytime, especially a younger person with a lot of promise, dies in a very sudden way, I don't know about you, but it makes me think, wow, life is short. You never know what is ahead of you. And, Charlie Kirk woke up that day. He had a tour that he had just starting. I think that was the first event of his new tour. And that was it. That was it that day. So when he left for the day, said goodbye to his family, he didn't know that was his last day. When I left on the day of my accident and I got into that car accident, that could have been my last day. For people that don't know, go back and listen to the accident episodes, like episode number, 4. But you never know what's ahead of you in life. And life is full of bumps and bruises. It is a roller coaster. You go up, you go down, you go all over the place. You want to throw up, you cry, you have wonderful, beautiful days. You have horrible days. That's life. And then as you're going towards, you're getting older, and God willing, you're going to live a long life, but it does make you think as you go along through your life. Like, you go through these different phases and you kind of make it through a decade and you think, all right, awesome. I made it through my 20s and my 30s and so on. And, when you do get older, you realize you don't know how much time you have left. And, there's all different ways you can look at that. You can say, okay, well, I've led a really good life. I really like where I'm living now, figuratively and literally. I love my house. I'm enjoying my life. I'm getting to spend time with friends and family. My health is great. I'm involved in lots of activities. And what a beautiful way to live. But then you have to remember there's people out there that are struggling, or maybe they're living their life and they're really unhappy, or they're really dissatisfied, or their health isn't good, or their family isn't doing well, or their marriage is on the rocks, or they hate their job, or they don't have any money. Like, all those things are very, very real things. And in one way or another, I've kind of been through a lot of those things. And sometimes, again, like we've said, sometimes you have a choice in things. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes God has a different plan for you. And you're thinking, wait a second, I wasn't counting on this to happen. What am I going to do now? Well, if you have faith, then you're going to say, I'm going to be fine, because God's going to lead me to the next thing. But I have to tell you, this is where people have a struggle sometimes, because they'll, like when you think about like when Charlie Kirk was killed, I'm sure his wife was thinking, okay, now what? Now what are we going to do? Of course she's grieving her husband. I'm not saying she's just like automatically going, okay, well, now what about me? What about me and my kids? I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is, I'm sure she had a moment where she thought, okay, now what? And we know she's a very faithful person. I don't think there's anybody questioning her faith. I know when my husband left me after 25 years, I thought, okay, I wasn't planning on that. Now what? And at the time I was faithful, not as faithful as I am now, but I trusted the Lord and he got me through it. And boy, there were times where I thought, are you there? Are you there, Lord? Because I am down to $22 in the bank. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't even have a job. What am I going to do? But he provided. He provided for me. I remember just knowing enough to say, Lord, help me. I think that's all I knew to say. And sure enough, he did. But, when you get to later in life, and let's say your kids now have all moved out. They've all gone off to school, or they've gotten married and they moved out, and you have that empty nest. And then it's you and your husband, or you and your wife. And you're going, okay, well, now what do we do? Well, I don't know if y'all realize this, but there's a lot of people out there that then that's the end of their marriage. That's the end. They're like, oh, well, we were here for the children and we raised the children and we have not been nurturing our relationship. So now we're sitting here looking at each other and going, well, I don't even know if I even like you anymore. I haven't been spending any time with you. I don't even really know who you are today. I know I married you a really long time ago. And back then we were attracted to each other and we had a lot in common and we had our children in common, but now they're gone. And now what? And they kind of like go off to their own corners. They're kind of miserable. They're not really living a life. They're living separate. Now, out in the secular world, out in other parts of the, religious spectrum, a lot of people just go, okay, well, we're done. So we're going to get divorced and I'm going to divorce my wife. I'm going to go off to Tahiti. I'm going to divorce my husband and I'm going to go, off to, I don't know what people do. But in our faith, we are married till death do us part. And we need to really nurture our relationships. And it's never too late to do that. It's never too late to do that. So even if you haven't been nurturing your relationship all along, even if you've been putting your whole focus on your children, which is fine as long as you're not neglecting your spouse. But now, if you haven't been doing that, now's the time. Regroup. Sit down and say, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? What are your favorite things? Get to know each other. Get to know each other again. Try to rekindle some things. Yeah, of course, you're older. Okay. He might not look like Robert Redford anymore. She might not look like, I don't know. I don't even know who to say. Who's the most beautiful woman I can come up with? I don't know. Maybe they don't look like they did when they were younger. It's not about that. It's about that you're different people now. There's still those core people the core person you married. But now let's reconnect. Let's figure out some things we like to do. You have all this time on your hands now. You don't have to be taking care of the children anymore. You can kind of go out and do some things together. Now, another mistake people make, they decide, oh, the kids are gone, so the women go off and do their thing. The men go off and do their thing. That's great, but then you got to come back. You got to come back and do things as a couple. Don't give up. Don't get into that rut. A lot of people get I'll tell you why I'm bringing this up, because I gave a lot of attention to my children when I was married to their father. And I thought I was doing the right thing. I was giving 100% of my attention to them. I expected him to do that too. And then what ends up happening is we kind of drifted apart. We became different people than the people we were when we got together. And it wasn't like there was anything wrong with him or me, but we lost ourselves as a couple. We didn't take people's advice where they said, keep your relationship going, make date nights, don't always put the children first, make sure that your relationship is strong and that you keep things going and keep, and we didn't do that. And ultimately, I think he was just very dissatisfied, and I think he felt neglected, and he didn't communicate that to me until it was too late. And we weren't Catholic. And so I think, that was it. We were done. And that's unfortunate, because then that ripples into the rest of the family. But obviously that wasn't God's plan. I never would have become Catholic if I would have stayed in that marriage. So, it's kind of different for Simon and I, because in contrast to the fact that, yes, we've been married for 10 years, but we haven't gotten to go do things that we want to do. We haven't got to go on adventures that we want to do. When we have had opportunities to go do things, we have been taking them. And, I really like Simon. I really like doing things with him. We have a lot in common. We have a lot of common interests. And then the things that we don't have in common, we really respect the other person liking those things and try to enable them to be able to do those things. So I'm just throwing it out there to people that if you're like I say, if you're happy with your situation, I think that's amazing and wonderful. And so, maybe these things I'm saying, you could offer to other people that like friends and family members that you see struggling. Maybe they would like to listen to this episode. So let's say you are struggling with your situation and you're not happy in your marriage. We've gone over like how you can, work on that. You want to work it out. You want to, find things at this moment of your life that you want to do together. Yeah, maybe you're older and you're more tired, and maybe you have things that are a factor that you need to factor in now that you're older. Fine, do that. Embrace the people you are today. Don't go back and say, oh, well, we got to go doing these things that are dangerous or things we, that could put us in jeopardy. You don't want to do that. You want to find out what is something you're interested in together now. Like they might be more quiet and contemplative things. But let's say you're not happy with maybe your living situation. You don't really, you've been living in the same house for years. I'm not saying to move and give up your house, but maybe do a revamp of your house. Maybe go in and make it more conducive to who you are today. Maybe that would be a fun project. If it's not a fun project for you, hire somebody to do it. But like do a revamp of the house. Instead of going to get a facelift or going to do something superficial, do something that maybe brings some happiness and joy to your life. Maybe go get a trailer and go out and go like camping. Lots of people go and they take little weekend adventures and they come back and it's like a refresh. Like I say, make a list of sites and things. Like people do bucket lists. I don't know what I like, if I like that or I don't like that, but it's like stuff to do, stuff, where you're not just sitting at home turning into just mushroom people and you're not doing anything and you're not checking out the world. So let's say that you're in the situation, I'm going to put on my life coach hat. Let's say that you're in a situation in your marriage, like we've talked about, where, maybe it's a newly empty nest. Maybe it's been an empty nest for a long time and the nest is very dirty and dingy. And you're at the point where you're really not liking each other. You're really at odds. And it doesn't mean necessarily that you're fighting all the time or you're going at it. There is that factor, but there's also the factor of maybe your spouse wronged you like 12 years ago and you're just got it stuck in your craw and you've never addressed it. You've never communicated about it and it's just festered. And you're at the point now where when your husband comes home from work in the day and you're like, oh my God, he's back. You're at that point. Or anything your wife is doing just is like nails on a chalkboard. And you're at that point. And you're thinking, well, this is just miserable and this is going to be the rest of my life now that I'm stuck with this person. Is it the end? What do you do with that? Well, my suggestion is, like I talked about, if try to not get to that point. Try to communicate through your marriage. Try to keep the marriage, where you know about each other the whole time. Don't let it get to this point. But if it does, what my suggestion is, it's not a bad idea to seek out therapy. And let me tell you why. It's fine to go to your church. It's fine to talk to your spiritual advisor, your priest, your deacon. That's fine. That's a great step. But my advice would be to go to therapy. And I think it's a good idea for you both to talk to the therapist about what's going on with yourself, okay? Because if you're angry at your husband, what are you angry about? What about him is bothering you? And this is the same vice versa. I'm just using that as an example. You need to figure out what is it that you're needing, what you're missing, what the other person isn't providing. You've got to get it out. And what happens is if you try to do that with your spouse, typically you'll start fighting about it, or the other person will be on the defensive. Like one will be attacking and one will be on the defensive. And that doesn't get you anywhere. It's really good to have a third party who's not a family member, who's not, they're looking at it from above, looking down below. And if you can try to figure out what's going on with yourself, what are you missing? What are you needing? What are they not providing? What are maybe you not providing that you're not, willing to do? Try to figure that out. They need to try to do the same thing because you need to try to work this out, okay? And you don't want to have the thing where you are mad at each other, repulsed at each other. You can try to find out, try to remember what brought you together in the first place. You need to find the things that you have in common, that you do enjoy. You know, there's a lot of things when you're in a life, and let's use this analogy. Life is rough. So there's lots of slices in life, and you're bleeding and you're trying to patch up that one, and then another thing happens. You have all these Band-Aids. What ends up happening is you get scars. So scars are there, but if you look at scars as a negative thing and go, oh, all those things were horrible, I didn't learn anything, it's made me bitter and angry towards my spouse, towards my family, towards the world. If you can look at those scars and say, wow, so we made it through that one. We made it through that rough patch. I have a scar, but we made it through, and it was rough. And then there was the next thing, we made it through. Now, sometimes you have to realize you've both gone through things. You've been married all this time. Typically, you're not going through things by yourself. It's like when there's a thing that's hurt or damaged the marriage or the family or whatever, you've gone through it together. But this is why I'm advising you, try to communicate throughout your marriage. Try to, not let it get to this point. But if it does, you need to, if you can't calmly sit down together and say, listen, I love you, but I'm struggling right now. I'm struggling. I don't like it when you come home and you've been drinking. I don't like that. That hurts me. I would like to figure out why you're doing that. And the person again, an example, the person who's been doing the drinking, they're doing the drinking because there's something wrong. They're struggling. So what are they struggling about? What are you struggling about? Why do you feel like you need to drink? What can I do to help you to not feel like you have to drink? Let's say the woman is going out with her friends all the time and the man's home alone all the time. And he's like, she comes home and he's bitter. She's out having the time of her life with her friends. She comes home and she's like, ugh, I have to be here with you now. I would say to her, well, why do you feel the need to go out with your friends? I would like to do things with you. Can we try to find some things that we can do together? And you can still go out with your friends, but you got to try to walk through this, work through this. And sometimes it's good when you have a therapist who can be the third party that kind of like guides you through that, helps you to work on yourself so that you can be the best spouse you can be for your husband or your wife. What are your husbands and wives' needs? Do the love languages. That's a really good way to figure out what can you do to help your husband and wife. But you do have to work on yourself. You have to heal yourself, heal your wounds. Don't hold stuff in. You don't have to come at them and attack them and say, 12 years ago when you did X, Y, and Z, you can bring that up, but hey, it's kind of your fault that you didn't bring it up 12 years ago. Give yourself some responsibility too, and try to figure out what you can do to work through this. Maybe get a therapist. Maybe, after or during your therapy, you can seek out a life coach. Give me a call. And then we try to figure out how you can work on things together. Again, having a neutral party. I met with a couple a few months ago, and the woman had all these gripes about her husband. And I really resonated with the husband. And I said, he wasn't there, so I wasn't siding with him. But I just said to her, I wonder if he's doing these things because of these reasons. And at the end of our session, she said, oh, well, I never thought of what he was thinking. I only thought about what I was thinking. And I said, well, I think he's feeling neglected. I think he's feeling very unimportant. And I think if you were to give him some of your time, that he would feel better and he wouldn't act out. And so sometimes you just need another person who comes in and just maybe gives you some advice. And ultimately, the goal should be that you work this out and you find how you can move on the rest of your life together. We're humans and we are going to kind of go at it at times, but you fell in love in the first place. You have a family, God willing. And even if you don't, you have each other. You don't want to be alone the rest of your life. You want to try to work this out, and you don't want to be angry. You don't want to be sad, and you don't want to just throw up your hands and say, well, this is just my life and I just have to put up with their shenanigans. You don't. Try to work through it. That's my advice. Do like a little inventory and say, what in my life is unsatisfactory? Kind of make a list and go, I don't necessarily like this. Don't just go, I hate it. It's awful. Don't complain. Don't complain to your spouse. Don't make it their fault. Like, well, you make me live here and you make me do that. Don't do that. What is unsatisfactory? And then decide what you can do to change it. What are the things like I'm saying, what can you change about your life? There's lots that you are empowered to do. You can pray about things, but there's things where it's like, if you're not happy with the way you look, don't do something drastic. Just do something that might give you a little perk. How can you actively get started? Like make a list and say, okay, well, we can do this about the house. We can do this about, maybe you need to start walking together so that you're getting more exercise and you'll feel better. I don't know. What is holding you back from these things? Is it money? Is it that you don't want to give time and effort to, doing these things together? Like, hey, let's do a project together. Let's start a garden together. Let's go to the gym together. Let's, maybe, I don't know, put in a swimming pool and we'll swim more. I don't know, do things with your family more. Come up with some things. You're the only thing holding you back, honestly. Not everything has to cost money. Some things can be very nominal. Simon and I don't have a lot of extra money, so we try to be very creative with what we're doing. So, maybe it's where you just want to have a movie night, or you come up with some series on TV that you want to watch together. What are some things you've been waiting to do? Lots of people wait until their kids are gone. But then they're like, oh, we forgot what we wanted to do. What are some things you've been wanting to do? Now's your moment. Now's your moment. The other things I got to thinking about, especially after Charlie Kirk, and like I said, where you don't always know when your last day is, things to kind of contemplate also. What do you do with the life you're given? Do you really use it to your full potential, to your full, do you take the gifts God has given you and actually help others with your gifts? Or do you just hoard them for yourselves? You don't want to do that. We all have something God has given us, if not more than one thing that we can do to help ourselves and others. How can you make those things the most valuable? Like I say, instead of, let's say you are a really good cook and you wouldn't want to just be a good cook and not share that with others. Of course you can make people a meal, but what if you were to teach other people how to cook? Do you realize there's a lot of people out there that don't know how to cook? I can't even imagine this. It's a whole new generation, I can tell you that. But what if you were able to teach a class so that people, not of all ages, can learn how to cook? That is so much more healthy for people's families, and it's so much more economical. So maybe that's something you can do. I know that there's a lot of people out there, I know a lot of older gentlemen. I don't mean to be sexist about it, but my personal opinion is I know a lot of older gentlemen that really know how to do a lot of handiwork around the house. They should maybe teach younger people, not just men, teach younger people how to tinker around the house. We have to keep these things going for the next generation. I don't know if you're all aware of this, but there's a lot of people out there that don't know how to do a lot of things, and things that we were taught, like our grandparents taught our parents taught us, we've taught our children. Got to keep it going. We have to keep things going like that. We need to stop wasting time. We're wasting a lot of time. We're wasting a lot of time on our phones. We're wasting a lot of time consuming kind of silly, stupid things. And what's consequently happening is our brains are turning to mush. People aren't sitting down and reading books. They're not having one-on-one conversations with people. They're not teaching people how to do things. We're wasting a lot of time. I am very guilty of this. There are times where I will be on my phone, I'll be scrolling, and all of a sudden I'll realize, oh my gosh, 20 minutes has gone by. That's a waste of time. Sometimes it's entertaining. Sometimes it's good. You just have to like have something that you can kind of zone out about. But we're wasting a lot of time, and time is precious. It's so precious. We shouldn't be having a lot of regrets. Regrets are rough. So try to live your life where you don't do things that you're going to regret. And a lot of those have to do with like mistakes, broken relationships. If you have broken relationships, if you have regrets, try to go remedy those. Try to go make them better. Try to work through things. You might not work through them, but maybe try to talk through some things. See where everybody is standing. Vent some things out. And then try to rekindle relationships. Try to patch up, problems and things like that. We need to really work on that. And sometimes we're the ones that have to make the first step because a lot of people won't do it. And let's say you go and you try and people just don't accept what you're saying. They don't want to change. They don't, they might accept your apology, but they're not going to apologize and they're just going to continue their life the way it is. At least you've tried. And then you can kind of, wish them the best, pray for them, and let God handle it from there. But we need to not have a lot of regrets. So let's be mindful about that. One thing that I think is super important is to have quality over quantity. I'm saying this because it's been an ongoing thing for the past few years that we're trying to downsize what we're doing. And we got to get rid of some things. We need quality. I would rather have less things and have them be more important things, more quality things than a lot of stuff. And I think there's a lot of people out there. I used to be one of them. The more stuff I had, I thought that was a sign of success. I thought that was a sign of, that I had I don't know what I thought, that I guess everybody would think I was awesome because I had so much stuff. It's now ultimately become an albatross and it's a problem. And we're going to be getting rid of a lot of things, and I'm looking forward to having more quality, less quantity. And there's a lot of people out there that need things, that need the things that you have. You don't need 12 of something, you can give it away. I think it's a problem that people are seeking so much worldly recognition and riches, where's that going to get you? How much stuff do you actually need? How rich do you actually need to be? Maybe you should give up some of your things and your money and donate it to people who are desperately in need, because that could make that could change somebody's whole life for the better. And, nothing wrong with having things, nothing wrong with working hard for things and having things to make your life easier and beautiful and wonderful. But you really only need so much, A lot of people are putting so much emphasis and effort into harming others these days. What is that all about? They're harming themselves and others. We don't need to be doing that. Let's love each other. Let's recognize other people's differences. Let's try to, I think the violence and the hostility and the anger out there, that really needs to come to a stop. And as older people, try to be the one that's teaching the younger people that that's not the answer. They don't always get their way. All of us, not just younger people, we all don't always get our way. But violence isn't the answer. Being a vigilante isn't the answer. We need order. We need people to, call the shots. We need to corral people we need to be loving and kind to people, and violence is not the answer. It's just not. So try to teach your children and your grandchildren to handle things in a different way. And we have to teach them that, actions speak louder than words. So teach them that, And what I want to say kind of in closing is virtues are important. We need to strive to have, really strong virtues. Values are important. We need to value things. You know, if everything is just like disposable and you don't tell people how grateful you are, you don't put in a good day's work, you don't do service to others, you don't show love and kindness to others, those, you know, you have to have values. You need to be honest. You need to, you know, want the best for people. So those are important. Having kindness and compassion for others. And ultimately, the most important thing is reverence to our Lord. If you don't have the Lord in your life and you're wondering why things are really messing up for you, that's a big factor. I mean, like I said before, life isn't easy because God is in your life, but it certainly is. You know that he's watching out for you. You know he's in your corner. And we're the ones, because we resist him, that's why sometimes our life gets a little messed up, is when you have him in your life, is because you're going off the path. Stay on the path with the Lord. He's guiding you. He's the one you need to follow. And if you're not following the Lord and you're kind of doing your own thing and you just think, well, I'm in charge of my life and this is my life and I can do whatever I want. Yes, you can. You're right. You can do that. But I'm going to caution you of that, and I'm going to really encourage you to seek out the Lord in your life, because your life will change for the better when he's in it. It really will. And I think you should really consider leaving a legacy. I'm realizing that there's things that people aren't knowing how to do anymore. Like I said before, if you have a trait or a skill, pass it down through your family. You know, sometimes I think we take these things for granted, you know, that we were raised on. And so we're like, oh, all these kids today know these things. They do not. And so that's because I think we failed them. So if you're a grandparent, if you're a parent, teach them the things that you know, that you grew up on, that you loved, and give a legacy to your family. You have traits in your family, the different things, you know, that are things about your family that only your family has. Those are beautiful. Like, try to express those to your family. Like, grandpa used to have this and grandma used to have this, and this is where you get this from, and this is why you look the way you do. Those are traits. Skills. Like I said, let's say grandma taught you to cook, and then you taught your daughter. Well, encourage your daughter to teach your grandchildren, or you teach your grandchildren how to cook. That's how we do a legacy. I'm a big tradition girl. I love family traditions. I think it's great to pass down traditions and to make new ones. I think that's a beautiful thing. The holidays are coming, so now's a perfect time to tell your children and grandchildren, you know where this tradition comes from? It comes from this. And then the next person can say, oh, and then we kind of changed it a little bit. Yes, and wasn't that nice? And wasn't that fun? Teach your family songs. What are your favorite songs? What were you raised on? What are your what games do you think are great? I learned how to play jacks and hopscotch and all things like that. Do you think kids are playing those things today? I don't think so. They should be. Those are very simple games. They're really fun. Let's bring those back. Like, who needs all this electronic stuff? You can play jacks with out in the middle of nowhere. No, you don't need any electricity. People are going, what are jacks? I know, Google it. Have a more active church life and do that with your family. Don't split off and do it separately. Do it as a family and carry that down in your family, that, you know, you were raised in the church. You raised your family. Take your grandchildren. Have healthy living. That's a legacy. If you're a healthy grandparent, you're going to live longer, God willing. And teach your family how to have a healthy lifestyle. They don't need a bunch of junk food. They don't need a bunch of things. They can have treats on occasion, but that's a legacy. Teaching your family how to be healthy. And teach your family about your family tree. Where did you come from? I don't even think sometimes people know who their great-grandparents are, or where they came from, or what did they look like. Pull out some old photo books and see what the family looked like. Have a legacy. Those are really important things. And last but not least, it's never too late to change your life. If you don't like your life now and you're 20, change your life. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. You can change your life. You don't have to do drastic things, but you also don't have to sit in a corner and say, well, this is my life. I'm miserable, and this is just how the rest of my life is going to be. It doesn't have to be that way. Pray to the Lord, ask for his guidance, and let God's will be done. And with that, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. See you next time. Thank you. Love you. Bye.